Today I'm going to show you guys how to create a functioning light switch that you can flick off and back on. I'll do my best to keep it as quick as possible. The first thing we need to do is go over to our third person blueprints, third person character. Open that up, as most things interact with this. Also, go into our content, input, actions, duplicate our jump, call it IA_interact. Back to inputs, IMC defaults, default mappings, drop the mappings, press plus, add a new input action as interact, save. We can close this. We can then also go to our content folder, right click, new folder, blueprints, open that up, create a new blueprint as an actor, BP_light switch, create another one, blueprint class, actor, BP_light switch, light. Open up our BP light switch. In our BP light switch, I'm going to add a cube. I am going to put it at 100 above. I'm going to make it the scale 2 by 0.1 by 2, 22. I'm going to select our cube, add an additional cube, and I am going to make this one 0.25, 1.5 by 0.5, and I'm going to bring it up a little bit, 100 off, and then I'm going to add an additional cube, and this one's going to be at a 45 offset. I am also going to make the scale 0.1 by 10 by 0.1. I'm gonna shrink that 10 down just a little bit. Going to rename this one switch. I'm going to select both cube and switch and change it to orange. Compile and save. I am also going to add, after selecting default scene route, a collision sphere. Going to move it up to 100, scale it up by 5, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and on component begin overlap. Before we do anything with this node, we will go to our BP third person character, create a new custom event, and put light switch ref. Create a new input, make the input a BP_light switch, object reference, rename it as light switch ref, pull out of the blue node, put in promote to variable, create another new custom event, and put it light switch ref clear. Don't need any variables, we just plug it into here so it clears the reference later on. Compile and save. Head back over to our light switch, and on the component begin overlap, we will cast to BP third person character, and then out of that do light switch ref, and then put in a reference to self. Click on our sphere once again, and then on component end overlap, we are going to once again cast to our third person character, and then we are going to call to light switch ref clear. Compile, save. We will then add a custom event, call it flick switch. Compile, save, go to our BP third person character, and then put down our IA interact. I'll then pull out a reference to our light switch, and then call out to our flick switch on triggered for our input action. And then on our, if I go into our content drawer inputs, our IMC defaults, we forgot to put a control in. I'm going to do E, save, close that. I'm going to go to our light switch, and I'm going to print a string, and I'm going to have it along the lines of, this is working, compile, save, going to go to the third person, blueprints, drag in our light switch, third person character, I'm going to press play. This way we can walk up, press E, and we can see in the top left, you'll also notice in the top left that it was firing off multiple times every time we press it. So what we're going to do is expand our input interaction and then pull out of started and have it so it only triggers whenever it started. If we go over to our light switch, we can now delete this print string, and we can pull out our switch reference to the components. We will need that over here. We'll need to create a new variable, and we'll call it flicked ? And we'll leave it as a Boolean. And what we'll do is create a branch here, and then say, whenever it has been flicked, we'll go to true. When it has not been flicked yet, we'll go to false. So in the false side, what we want to do is we want to create a timeline, and we will call it flicked timeline, or we'll call it timeline flicked. We will then open it up by double clicking, make the time of it 0.5, add a track, rename the track flicked, create a variable, or create a key, set it to a value of 45 and a time of 0, add another key, and then set it as a value of half a second, so 0.5, and then negative 45. And then go back to our event graph, and out of false, make sure you put it into play from start. Then we're going to grab our switch, and we're going to do set relative, we'll do set relative rotation, expand this, right click, split pin structure, plug in our flicked into our X, and then plug it into updated, compile, and then whenever it has been flicked, we want to say, do essentially the same thing, but in reverse. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy that, and then we're going to say reverse from end, and then on our flicked, so when it's false, we want to say, hey, we're going to turn it back to true at the very end, and when it's true, we want to set it to false at the very end. Compile and save. And if you hop into a PIE window, you'll notice that the switch is now visually functioning. I'm going to grab these nodes and move them down a little bit so they're not so close to the other ones. I'm going to go over to the viewport and add a collision sphere, and I am going to make this one quite large and go 50 by 50 by 50. And if you compile and save and you look in your level, you'll see that that's majority of the level. Now the reason why we're doing this is we want to get every single light that's within that sphere so then we can interact with it. So what we need to do next is go into our blueprints folder and then open up BP light switch light. I'm going to add a sphere. I'm going to make it like a saucer almost. Then I'm going to add a point light. Or let's see our options. I'm going to add a spotlight. Going to rotate it. and then drop it a bit beneath it. I'm going to compile, save. I'm going to take a couple of these lights and drop them in the level. While I am here, I'm going to also add a spotlight that I do not want to get affected by our light switch. I'm going to be putting it in the middle here, and I'm going to hold Control and L, and I'm going to bring our sun down very low. I'm going to make this point light a little bit stronger so we can see what's going on in the middle of the map. And then the lights around the outside, I'm going to make them slightly stronger as well. Maybe increase their radius a little bit. Compile, save. We can see it lights up a bit more. In our light switch, we need to go to the top, and on event begin play, we need to grab a reference to our sphere, the new one that we created, the larger one, and then get overlapping actors, and then set it to BP underscore light, switch light, and then promote this to a variable, and we will call it all lights in area, and drag that into event begin play. Then over in our BP light switch, we are going to create a custom event. We're going to call it toggle lights. Compile, save, go over to our light switch, and out the end of our flicked, we are going to grab our reference to all the lights in the area. We're going to do for each loop, plug that into the end, and we are going to cast to BP underscore light switch light, plug that into loop body, and we are going to say toggle lights. Compile, save. You can then feed this directly up into here, so both are feeding into the same for each loop. If you then follow this toggle lights into here, into our light switch light, we can then drag out of here and do a flip flop. And then out of each of these, what we can do is grab our spotlight and then do set intensity. We will set the first one to 0, and then copy, paste it, same reference, the same light, create the second one at 13,000. Compile, save. We also have to go back to our BP light switch and create a bit of a correction, which is instead of this directly feeding from here, we need to sever this connection and have it feed from finished for both of these. Compile and save. Now see, when you walk up to the light switch, if you press E, you can turn the lights off and then back on, and if you step away, pressing E doesn't do anything until you're close enough to press E and turn it off and on again. As always, please leave a like if you found this helpful, and if you guys have any more ideas for anything you'd like to know in Unreal, please leave it in the comments below.